Today we have a privilege to have on the show Mr. JP Hansen. How's it going, my man?
Great, Marco. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being on the show. How's your day going so far?
Living the dream. Good to spend it with you.
Awesome. I love being outside, recording today. So that's amazing. So, you have two books, the Bliss List and Find Your Bliss. I love those two. Before we get into those two books, what made you leave corporate America and decide, to be a writer, speaker, and inspiring others?
Well, I've always wanted to write a book, going back to my English days at Boston College.
Okay.
And I can't explain why it took me so long, but
how long did it take you?
I was in my late 40s.
Okay, it's all right.
So there is hope if you're 21, 22, 23, and you don't know what you want to do. Some of the most interesting people are people that are in their late 40s that still don't know what they want to do. I knew I wanted to write the book, but I started to write it after I had left corporate America, to answer your question, and start my own business, which was my dream.
Okay.
And I started an executive search business in 1994, specializing in what I had done. I climbed corporate ladders in sales and marketing. So I specialized in sales and marketing. And I saw a void. I was recommending a couple other books on interviewing and job seeking and all sorts of nonfiction books. And I was giving other people 4,000 or 5,000 sales. So I finally started writing my own. And where it became real interesting is where I combined the mystical part of the book to the practical. So it really was two books in one.
So what do you think usually hold people back in achieving their dream or getting back to have this goal and want to achieve and they never did? What do you think hold them back?
Well, there's an internal, meaning yourself. And in the Bliss List, I talk about it as the four-letter words. So we don't have to edit this. I won't use dirty words. Four-letter word.
You already did.
Yeah. The four-letter words are can't, don't, won't, and then the F-bomb, fear.
Okay.
And many times you ask somebody about what they would like to do, and they say, "Well, I'd like to do this, but I don't have the money. I can't afford it. I don't have the time." And for me personally, I didn't have the time when it came to writing a book.
Okay.
I don't have the time, and I had to overcome my own personal limitation. Other limitations are externals, and that can be your parents. I know when you came to America, you came with a lot of dreams, and all of a sudden, parents cut the cord for the financial.
Yeah.
I had something similar. It happened to me. Somehow you found a way to do it, and if it doesn't kill you, it makes you survive, and you can write a book about it.
Doesn't kill you, make you survive. I love that one. I love that one. So as we're talking about the book, so I'm going to talk about the first book, the Bliss List. So discover what will make you happy. Can you get a little bit deeper in that? What can make, because happiness is something really important.
Yeah.
And people are not happy nowadays. People have money, they have a nice, but they're not happy. So what can make somebody happy? And you can touch a little bit based on your book also.
The Bliss List opens with a classic Twain quote. I love Twain.
Yeah, Twain.
The secret of success is to make your vocation your vacation.
To make your vocation a vacation?
Yeah, not many vacationers out there. And 4 out of 5 people are unhappy in their current jobs. So you say, well, that's probably because all these things we have going on now, all these pressures, social media, you have all these multitasking balls you're bouncing in the air. Well, no, that's not it. I did further research and found out in 1910, one of my favorite authors, Wallace Wattles, did some research that went into a phenomenal book. And in there, he found 4 out of 5 people were unhappy in their jobs. 1910 America.
4 out of 5.
Yeah, 1910 America was rural, very different in dynamics, yet the same percentage were unhappy. So it has really nothing to do with the fact that we have email and iPhones and all these distractions.
Media,
yeah. So on a deeper level, what I believe is that your own happiness is a choice. You can wake up in the morning grumpy, or you can wake up happy. And if you're grumpy, you can change. Scientists know that in 17 seconds you can change from a negative emotion to a positive. So it starts with setting a goal for yourself to be happy. One of my Bliss List items that's been constant since I wrote this book in 2008, the first version, is to be in a positive emotional state 95% of the time or more. And people that know me would say that I reached that. Some people would say I'm there all the time, and you don't want to see the 5% when because it turns pretty ugly. But I think the trick is being able to bounce out. And people, a skeptic can say, "Oh, that sounds all great, but that's not real world." Well, what is real world? Reality is what you make of it. Yeah. And the secret of success is to make your vocation into your vacation. And if you're not happy doing what you're doing, we have a free country. You, if anybody, are a testimonial to the fact that you can cut me off, but I'm not going to die. I'm going to thrive. Yes. And if I have to go to community college and work 2 jobs to pay that, and then get into a 4-year program, then I'll find a way. Yeah. And I was cut off midway and had to pay for. I ended up having to commit to pay for half of my education. Okay. And BC now is expensive. It's $70,000 a year, which is just crazy. It wasn't that much when I went. I wouldn't have gone.
That's a lot of money right there.
It's nuts. I have a lot of empathy for people that are part of the millennial population now, because they're experiencing what we didn't experience. We experienced high costs of college and high costs of education, but when 2008, 2009 hit, and all the financial crisis, worst job market in 50 years, housing crash and disaster, when that happened, the colleges didn't get the memo, and they kept raising their prices.
They didn't get the memo, right?
No, and they still haven't gotten the memo because they are so far away from reality with costs. It's a very difficult thing now, because if you don't have an education, you're going to have a hard time becoming employed. And it's directly proportional to how much education you have.
So in your own experience, writing and publishing your book, you have been rejected 100 times.
Oh, 300 times.
300 times. That's amazing. But you still have the guts, to pursue your ambition, your goals. So how did you manage to overcome?
I screamed a lot.
You screamed?
No.
How did you scream?
No, actually, it was not what I expected. I thought that I'd write this sensational book. I've had it in me forever. It took me a long time to finally finish it, and I was so proud of it. And I was not counting on a rejection, let alone 308 in a row.
308
rejections. Yeah.
Wow, 308 rejections. That's you got a book.
I read up on people that had experienced similar experiences, and some of the best-selling books of all time in fiction and nonfiction had even worse experiences. Chicken Soup for the Soul, I think they had something like 5,000 turndowns. And that's 500 million copies in print. Harry Potter was thrown in the trash. If it wasn't for an 8-year-old daughter reading that, it would have never happened. Abe Lincoln, all sorts of failures up until the very end. So I did some soul searching. I went back to some of the authors that I love, Wallace Wattles I mentioned, and Napoleon Hill, and Jose Silva. Okay. And I found an inner strength and conviction in knowing that what I was doing would help people. So 308, it's not good. Fortunately, I had my day job to fall back on. I just knew when it would happen for a reason. And when it did, I look back on it now and say that was perfect. I had way too much in the book initially. It was cut in half. And
because you just have too much knowledge you want to throw out there.
I threw everything I wanted to write into a book. And I didn't realize that wasn't really marketable. So I fortunately attracted a really good editor who and I had a great local marketing services firm that could take the book from A to Z and really turn it into a book I was proud of. Yeah. And then it was easy. Then it started to sell itself because consumers loved it. Yeah. So my advice if someone wants to write a book is be prepared, but don't be dissuaded by rejection, because there's a lot of well-meaning people that are in the publishing business who just have a gate that it's hard to climb over.
Yeah. So you also give tips to people who are looking for jobs.
Yeah.
What are your great top advice you have for millennials looking for jobs in this current market?
Well, first is stay in school. I'm partially kidding.
I'm gonna say, I don't know about that.
Change your major. The real world sucks. I will say that. In all seriousness, I mentioned the proportion to education. I've been interviewed a number of times as a career expert. You write a book and you're now a career expert. And what people don't understand is how proportional the job market is to education. In 2008, 2009, we had the worst unemployment rate in 50 years. Financial crisis, housing crash, stock market, everything was in disarray. If you look at the unemployment rate, it was in double digits for the first time in a long time. Yeah. But if you look at the breakdown, it was directly proportional to education. PhDs and MDs had a 0.3% unemployment rate, 0.3. So somewhere 1/3 of one person was unemployed out of 100. Okay. And I'd like to see that person's probably, a quadriplegic. Next is people with a law degree and a master's degree. That's single digits. After that is somebody with some graduate and college. After that is a college degree, then it's college, some college or junior college or community college, and then it's high school. Below high school, the unemployment rate is what makes up the unemployment rate. So stay in school at all costs, get the degree, even if it takes you 10 years, just do it. Go back and get that degree. I have so many students complain about college debt. Well, read your book, Screw College Debt, because it certainly has a lot of good insight. Thank you. And your story is an inspiration that if you can do it, somebody can find a way. To do it, yeah. And so to find that dream job, spend the time in college single tasking. Many of the kids that I see, millennials I see, are sitting in a coffee shop or in a restaurant across from somebody, and they're sitting there with their, I'll call it dumb phone, or their gizmos, and they're not engaged with who they're talking to. Okay. And multitasking is the generation that is upon you right now. Generation Net, we'll call that. Generation Net. Generation Net, Generation Y, Millennial. And practice single tasking. Be aware of where you are. So many people now have the ambition, I want to use this as a stepping stone, college or high school or grad school, because down the road then I can start to live. And then they graduate finally, and they now are thrust into this real world, and they haven't prepared themselves to pay for the debt. They haven't prepared themselves for that real world, and they crash right into the ground because their mindset is still on ambition for the future. These are the people that turn 40 and 50 and 60 and are living for retirement. Then they get to retirement age and push the retirement off because they haven't planned. Yeah. And then they get to a point where they have to retire, and then they're feeling empty. Well, you can avoid all that. When you're in school, be aware of what you're taking. Learn, take different topics and different subjects. Yeah. My daughter's 21. She's changed her mind 5 times. And every time, that's great, do that. That's great, do that. That's great, do that. Whatever you decide to do, just do it because it feels good to you. If you're using your own intuition, your own gut instinct, it never fails you. And don't listen to others that are telling you what they want you to be. Yeah, I love that. Now we're gonna get personal. All right. Yeah. So, if you had to choose one country beside the U.S. to live for the rest of your life, what would that be? Oh, good one. I love Paris, okay. But I would have to say it would likely be somewhere in the Caribbean, and I'll say St. Martin because I love St. Martin. Okay. Yes. What is your guilty pleasure? Guilty pleasure? Yeah. Woo, that's a great one. My guilty pleasure, I would say, I don't do guilt anymore, so that's a misnomer for me. I do love a good glass of wine, and unfortunately, as you ascend that ladder, I used to be able to drink lousy wine. Now I've become picky, and I could say that could be tabbed a guilty pleasure. Okay. If you had the power to make one change in the world right now, what would that be? Peace. Peace. World peace. World, I love it. Yeah, there's no reason we are all at war. And part of it is taking spirituality, which is part of the 6 spokes of bliss, the spirituality, and pushing it aside in the name of a religion that you've been raised into. Yeah. And you look at the number one cause of death over time, and it is because my God is better than yours, and I'm going to kill you over it. Yeah. And if people will say, well, that doesn't sound right, well, 9/11 was a religious war. So move towards spirituality, and you'll find that you can realize we're all one. We're all connected. All of this is connected, and there is a divine perfection to how everything layers. Stop thinking about, and I talk about some of the words that are just crazy. One is coincidence. Coincidence is an absolute misnomer. It actually goes back to geometry days with, you're an accountant, so you probably didn't take a lot of geometry. I had to take geometry. Coincidence is a math term in geometry. It means inside, and it means two pieces that fit perfectly together. Yeah. We have taken coincidence and looked at it as some random happening, and nothing is random. So when
everything happens for a reason.
Everything happens for a reason, and we have a lot of control in that reason through like attracts like, law of attraction, and how the universal laws work.
Awesome. What will be your last advice to my viewers?
Last advice is really follow your dream. Determine what your dream is, what makes you happy. Spend time on you and what makes you happy. From there, chase it, and don't listen to anybody anybody other than your own instinct. Yeah. Trust your instinct, and it'll lead you crazy places that you never thought were possible. And you do that by being present and being aware.
Awesome, Mr. Hansen. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to comment below and subscribe to our show somewhere here so you don't miss any content.